This week on the show, throwing some shapes in Berlin.
This is the capital of techno.
Tasting the future in Wales.
So you've got a sweet potato, butternut squash, cricket.
And in search of something special in the skies of New Zealand. Welcome to the Travel Show. This week back in the UK and getting a few mouthfuls of bugs on the Welsh coast. Now let me tell you, some people say it's the future and it's not as bad as you think. Stay tuned for that, but we're gonna begin in Berlin, a city that's built its modern reputation on its amazing club scene. A scene renowned for its pulsing beats and its flashing lights, which please be aware, feature throughout.
It's community, it's coming together, it's sound, it's light.
This is the capital of techno. People coming from other parts of the world who want to party here, they say, oh, what is this kind of music?
When you go into a club, it just blows you away.
DJs here will play for 8 hours, 10 hours, and you can get so lost on the dance floor. The artists that I work with really put a focus on creating a utopia on the dance floor, and you get to have this collective moment of bliss and belonging.
About Berliners that we know what is important, that we find a good balance between working and partying, like finding a way to free your mind, like from the sorrows of the day. I came here 4 weeks before the wall came down. We had these free spaces where no regulations happened. You know, Berlin Mitte was like empty because nobody wanted to live here. The people had no warm water, no heating, no toilets in their flats. And so there was so much empty spaces, and the people from all over the world, they all came here to fill these free spaces.
We just occupied rooms and houses and just started doing culture, music. We could establish something very special, what you don't have in other cities or in other countries because of this kind of like chaotic situation.
It's different here because like it's not about how much money you have. It's like one example that when you go in a club, you can't buy a table to be cool, you know.
I think that's very related also to the history of the city. You know? It's being very poor after the fall of the wall, the warehouse parties and raves, and when you don't have other stuff, that's what you give value. And now it kind of became the trademark of Berlin.
Berlin clubs are very different from other parts of the world because in other capital cities, people like to dress up nice, you know, nice shirts, nice shoes. Yeah. In Berlin, it's quite the opposite because people like the trashy. The clubs here look like abandoned houses most of the time. Very dark, you can't see much. Yeah, it's like stickers all over the wall, graffiti, yeah, and it's been like that since the 90s, and people don't want this to change.
It was a shocking moment, and it took a couple of weeks that we realized what it really means. With my staff, how can they get their money? And then, of course, your own situation, how can I pay my rent for the club?
Everybody was very scared that, okay, half of the clubs will close now, the Berlin nightlife is gonna die forever, it's never gonna be the same.
There was something.
I was just so worried for everybody. I work with artists who music is their entire livelihood. I'm one of the lucky ones who had a day job that I could fall back on.
We started doing some streaming, so to give a tiny little platform to our artists, to the DJs, and to bring some music to the people at home. We just realized that it's really annoying and depressing being in an empty club without the energy of the people, and that really hurt. It really hurt.
This 2 years almost showed that people who are working in this scene are very passionate about the club culture, and they want to stay there, and they want to do everything they can to continue doing this, you know.
It was 5 months after our lockdown. We could start doing things outside, so we started doing concerts. Just relax in the sun chair, and it's a nice situation with the trees. Sometimes you can hear the birds, and then you have the artist at the stage. We are just happy that we see some eyes and that we get some emotions back, and that we see that we all are still alive.
It was really great, but I was just saying that sitting down was very hard. It was like I wanted to get up and dance and, you know, and feel the people around me as well dancing and so on, and it was very restrictive, and it was really good to be out, but there is a little bit of sadness in it as well.
It's incomparable, like what it was before, and you could literally feel like the pressure inside of the people that really long for liberating themselves again from these kind of restrictions.
You can only appreciate something once it's gone, and now people really appreciate what they had before.
We will fight for like more freedom to party, because it's important.
Berlin is a city which always stands up again, and whatever is possible, it's possible here in Berlin.
I think we have to get the party saga. Berlin, if you go out, one of the most important things is to bring a hat. That triples your chance of getting in. Now let's go.
It seems like Berlin is back in the game. This is the queue to the most famous club in Berlin. All right, we made it to the end of the queue. Today is the first day Berghain opens again after 1.5 years. And over there is the entrance. The longest queue I have ever seen in Berlin. I guess everything's back to normal.
After a year's delay, Dubai's 2020 World Expo finally opened its doors with a glitzy ceremony earlier this month. Over 190 countries have laid out their stalls with their best cultural offerings. China's pavilion showcases robot pandas and electric cars, while Saudi Arabia's display boasts the world's largest interactive lighting floor. The organisers hope as many as 25 million people will come for a look around, with visitors having to show proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test to get in. It's open for 6 months, ending on March 31st. If your favourite bit of a convention is the food samples, the Salon du Chocolat in Paris promises plenty of treats to satisfy even the sweetest of tooths. Beginning on the 28th of October, there's a dazzling confection of chocolate-themed events, including a chocolate fashion show with 100 chocolate dresses, chocolate stools, chocolate competitions, and a reproduction of Pablo Picasso's Guernica made from 500 kilograms of, well, you get the idea. With Halloween looming, New York celebrates the return of its spooky annual village parade after a pandemic postponement in 2020. Now in its 48th year, crowds of more than 2 million people are expected, with tens of thousands of costumed partygoers taking part.
The parade is always a surprise to me because I can't plan for every single individual who's coming. I mean, it could be like we threw a party and nobody came. Or it could be everybody in the world was waiting to come and oh my goodness, here they are. What do we do with all of them? I expect the energy to be really positive and good.
Meanwhile, across the pond, the Derry Halloween event in Northern Ireland claims to be Europe's largest Halloween party, with over 140,000 people visiting in 2019, more than doubling the city's population. This year, they've cancelled their usual parade, but the festivities are still going ahead, with a mix of light installations, displays and performances spread across 5 zones, all capped off with a big firework display. Right, still to come on the travel show. A mouthful of bugs. You're chucking me at the deep end with this one, aren't you? Right, I'm going for it. And in search of the natural light show that will take your breath away. So don't go away. Next up, I'm in St David's in Wales. With a population of just 1,800, it's the UK's smallest designated city. I'm visiting a farm that's cottoned onto a trend which is still to catch on in Britain, but that's already feeding some 2 billion people around the world. Set across 100 acres of Pembrokeshire's countryside, the bug farm is home to dozens of species of insects, and it's the only one of its kind in the UK. As someone who's scared of bugs, I wasn't sure what to expect, and as always, I was thrown right into the deep end. So who have we got here?
This is one of our giant stick insects. It's a Pterocoidea stick insect. So,
Pterocoidea?
Yeah, it doesn't even have a common name, so little is known about it.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a hold?
I do, reluctantly, yes. Okay. Go on, I'm going to do it.
So what I'll do is I'll just pop her onto you.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll just grip on a tiny bit.
It's like a live
but she won't
twig.
Go anywhere. Yeah, you'd never notice them if they're in a bush. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. As well as offering this unique take on a petting zoo, Sarah hopes her farm will help inspire an important shift in the way we view bugs, into seeing them as a potential resource in the battle against climate change.
So the bug farm is first and foremost a place where you come to see awesome insects and other invertebrates like this. We want people to come here and have an experience where they come in going, oh, I don't know about bugs, or not sure, and then go, wow. And if we can get that insight and then allow people to go, okay, let me learn a little bit more about them. Okay, they're quite fascinating, and you know what? They're really useful as well. Then that's the idea.
The Bug Farm's main draw is arguably its grub kitchen. It's the only restaurant in the UK devoted to eating insects.
So we don't eat insects like this one.
You don't eat this one. Don't worry, we're not going to eat you.
She's safe. But what we can do is, if we look at including insects in our diet, we can actually get protein very efficiently from a group of animals that we don't usually eat here in the West. So it makes loads of sense because you can get a similar amount of protein to beef from insects, but with up to 25 times less feed going in, a fraction of the land used because insects can be farmed vertically, and they can feed on side streams of other plant-based industries. So it makes lots of sense to be able to farm them for us to eat.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just getting around our kind of issues with the idea of eating insects here in the West.
You can say that again. Just how palatable are these crunchy critters? Sometimes called a future food, even the UN Food and Agriculture Organization has spoken out urging people to make more of what they call an underutilised resource. Millions are being invested in insect farms worldwide, and Sarah and her husband and Chef Andy are making the most of this growing industry. Right, so I've got to admit, Andy, I've never tried bug-based food before, not to my knowledge anyway. I'm sure I've eaten a few flies in my time. Yeah. I'm a bit terrified about what I'm going to find inside.
Oh, well, I can talk you through that.
All right. So, what have we got in here?
So, you've got a sweet potato, butternut squash, cricket, a bit of yellow mealworm, and then there's a buffalo insect as well, which is the larvae of a lesser mealworm. Go ahead if you want to have a try, go for it.
You're chucking me at the deep end with this one, aren't you? Right, I'm going for it. And I love pakoras, so...
Oh, fantastic.
All right.
Quite a lot to live up to then. The buffalo worms are quite a subtle, almost like toasted rice flavour. The mealworms have this really sort of nutty, sort of different kind of flavour. And then the crickets, some people think taste like mushrooms, some say white chocolate.
That's really nice. I would not. If I didn't look at the spice is amazing. But obviously, I know the ingredients and I can see my little bug friends in there. But I wouldn't necessarily know I'm eating an insect-based.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing we wanted to help people get their heads around, is that insects just add this sort of savoury, slightly nutty flavour. And when they're fried as well, they really kind of crisp up a little bit as well. So
yeah, I can see a little crispy mealworm there. Even the Welsh Government is behind this bug revolution, recently providing Andy and Sarah with a grant to develop Vexo, an insect-based mincemeat designed to help tackle obesity in schools.
So we're not sort of going to say to people not to eat meat, that's not the message we want to get across, but we just say, look, this is a viable alternative, especially when there's a climate emergency. We really need to look at how we produce food for a growing population. And I'm surprised that more chefs haven't tried this really so far. You know, we're still, as far as I'm aware, the UK's only insect restaurant to have insects on the menu full time. I've grown quite attached to my stick insect friends, so I'm not sure I'll be swapping out my courgettes for crickets. But from the sounds of it, here in the UK, a sprinkling of insects on your chips might be more commonplace in the not too distant future. Finally, winter's fast approaching here. By far the best time to go hunting for the Northern Lights, the Arctic phenomenon on so many of our bucket lists. But did you know there's an equally impressive display in the Southern Hemisphere, the Aurora Australis? We've been on board a unique flight over the skies of New Zealand to seek it out.
It's really one of the world's most phenomenal natural light shows. It's very otherworldly, it's very dramatic.
Since moving to Dunedin in 2013, I've become completely and utterly bonkers about this amazing phenomenon. And, you know, I spend many dark nights chasing around remote parts of southern New Zealand where we get to see the Aurora Australis. But a few years ago, I realised that actually, if I really wanted to see the Aurora Australis, I've got to get way south of New Zealand. So to do that, we need, well, I guess you'd call it an airliner, basically. Find the active area of Aurora and then start orbiting around so we get fantastic views. And that's what we're doing tonight. We're 10 hours really chasing auroras across the southern ocean, 41,000 feet in an amazing aircraft, the Boeing 787. We've just seen the numbers and it looks like the aurora is kind of brewing for a bit of a storm, which is good. You can tell there's been a bit of a party here in Christchurch. I always like to hold off on the champagne until we've seen the aurora. That's my personal way of doing things, but this is pretty exciting times.
This stuff is important, right? Tourism is important to our country, and whatever happens tonight, and I hope to God we see an aurora, because otherwise I'm hiding in the toilet. This is really important. I just want to say, Rachel, what an amazing job your company have done.
Thank you, Ian.
Flights to the Light is our pivot project. We came into COVID as specialists and travelled to Latin America and Antarctica. Obviously, COVID put a bit of an end to that, so we knew we had to do something else. As it turned out, there had been an astronomer, Dr. Ian Griffin, who in 2017 and 2018 had done some private charters to see the Southern Lights. So I reached out to him. I just said, hi, I'm Rachel. What we'd like to do, we'd like to recreate these flights again. Kindly said yes and came on board.
We're sold out, so we've got 273 on board tonight. 273 also coming on board tomorrow night, so it's really, it's amazing.
Very exciting, which for a very long time.
So we're starting to get into the auroral zone, and as you can tell from all the tape, we're trying to see the aurora, but in a minute the lights are going to go down and we'll hopefully get some good pictures.
Wait, shall I?
How long before the lights go down? Yes, apparently it takes a while.
Doing them right now.
Awesome, thank you. Here we go. Yay! Start looking out the window. Oh, look, you're starting to see it just ahead of us. There we go, we're going on. Oh, look, it's starting to come in now. Look, oh man, this is getting good. Okay. Can you see it through the windows? Just ahead of us. You're starting to see it. Do you see that? Oh, yes! Woo-hoo!
Oh, look at that. So good, bro.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Fantastic.
We're so exciting and take pray and wish and everything. I think it's unbelievable.
We flew into an Aurora storm tonight, so we got some lovely images, and certainly for me it's one of the best flights I've ever seen. The Aurora tonight was spectacular. Now it's time for a quick breakfast, I think, and then processing images for the rest of the day.
Right, that's all for this week, but coming up next time. Krista's in Iceland, at the volcano that became destination of choice for hundreds of lockdown locals earlier this year.
Someone asked me if it was split up. It's not.
Don't forget, if you want to follow us on some of our recent adventures, you can find us on BBC iPlayer. We're on social media too. Just search for BBC Travel Show on all the main platforms and you'll find us there. For now though, keep planning those next trips and we'll see you back on the road very, very soon. Goodbye.